this morning. That was the World Sports Betting Dash over 400 metres, which produced a thrilling finish with less than a half a length covering the first 3 horses past the post.
Stand by, laser-like pace injected. Chocolate Soldier on the insides, about a half a length off. Of course, Lunacan and Sabatini showing exceptional speed. Maquette's on the outside. Favourites under pressure, Chocolate Soldier. And it's Lunacam and Maquette the last 100. Maquette with the red cap. Lunacam on the inside, Sabatini. But it's going to go to Maquette as they hit the line from Lunacam. Sabatini, Don Carrari. And
tremendous for Duncan Howells there, Graham, with this horse Maquette, and you could say that the race was won at the start. The horses that jumped away quicker than the others basically ran 1, 2, and 3 there. The only horse that was running on was Don Carrari, the 2-year-old. But we know it's 400 meters, and weight for age and that type of thing is thrown out the window. But the 2-year-old was not as sharp as he was in Gauteng.
Different field, different caliber field, and took a brave man to claim those odds for a 2-year-old in that sort of company. And I don't want to be an after the race merchant, but they were very, I certainly wasn't in the company of the 2-year-old. I wasn't surprised that he failed to make the frame. I was a little disappointed with last year's winner, Trafalgar Square's performance. He was under pressure all the way, but Lunacam ran as expected, but outgunned in the closing stages and probably throughout by a head or so by Maquette. Sabatini ran according to expectations. She's also very quick. But it's a lovely race to watch. It's a great way to start the race meeting, and it wasn't a disappointment. Didn't quite crack the course record, but Maquette got home first, narrowly in front of Lunacam. Sabatini just in behind them. You said Don Carrari was making some progress. He was hanging quite badly. And Pray for Rain, not unexpectedly, was the class package of the race. He was beaten for early speed, but was doing good work over the closing stages. So I don't think the 2-year-old Chocolate Soldier was disgraced. I wouldn't draw any assessments going forward as a result of this 400-meter race. But on the day, great start for Duncan Howells, great start for Heinrich and Hester Kuhn, and a great start also for Apprentice Le Harbour.
Just to come out of the race, there is a race that's coming up on the 11th. It's a Pinnacle. And Give Me Another Chance is entered. And when I had a word with Carl Hudson after the race, he said, this was a nice pipe opener for my horse, because that's where I'm going, next.
Pray for Rain?
Yeah, Pray for Rain. That's where I'm going. It comes up on the 11th of May, and it's a Pinnacle. But I had a quick look at it. When you mentioned the race, that Give Me Another Chance is entered there as well. So he says, if Give Me Another Chance accepts, then I think I got my horse to beat. But if you're going to take out one horse out of this, using that as a nice pipe opener, keep an eye on Pray for Rain coming up on the 11th of May. But the fillies, well, they ran first and third yet. Lunacam back in second, and Don Carrari improved on that position last year, where he finished fifth, running fourth. Let's go on to race number 2, which kicked off the bar pot, and have a look at the closing stages.
May. Bjorn Ironside now being asked to run between them. Little Black Gems looking for a run on the outside, Barry de Grand. But 21 May continues to gallop, coming to the 200-meter marker. The favourites on the ropes, Bjorn Ironside. And it's 21 May out in front, and not even a roadblock would have stopped this one today. Bjorn Ironside for second. The third spot, Barry de Grand. And then...
Well, there we saw the running of the first leg of the bipart. It was the Radisson Blue Hotel Durban and Schlanger maiden juvenile plate over 1,000 metres. The red-hot favourite, D's, was number 3, Bjorn Ironside. He was a step slow away, but not so as to completely destroy his chances of winning the race. And I thought that 21 May's victory, to give Duncan Howells a quick double for Heinrich and Hester Kuhn, was full of merit.
Yeah, and you picked the horse out in the parade ring. That's just the way he was turned out. It's amazing how experience and time can bring these horses on. The feedback from Gavin Larina in the post-race interview that I did after he won with Talent Princess, it was not a matter of lack of match fitness, because he said he thought that he'd done enough back home. But he's of the opinion that the horse is going to be better over further. So this sprint trip of 1,000 meters was on the sharp side for him, especially at this tighter track. You get first run. He said Sean Veal made the move at the right time, and my horse was just chasing and chasing and kept chasing. So I will take a lot out of number 3, Bjorn Ironside, after this run over 1,000 meters. He's not one that you're going to write off easily, especially as they start stepping up in distance. Yeah, but I agree with you. Compliments to Duncan Howells. He started off his day in a fine style, reading races 1 and 2.
Yeah, 21 May, he's expecting that one to go a little bit further in time to come, although he ran like an absolute 5 furlong specialist in that race, and clearly Bjorn Ironside is going to progress from here and be a horse to follow. Those two completely dominated the race.
Yeah, they did. And the one thing that we know is that it was a plan of action. You know, just having a word with Duncan Howells, you know, after his double, he said, you know, you have to have a plan of action if you want to try and beat a horse. And we thought that we got the experience, we got match fitness on our side, and the instructions were simple. Try and get yourself in a favorable position, skip at the top of the straight, and hopefully you can hold on. It doesn't work out each time, you know, making plans, but it did this time for this horse because it worked out to a T.
And talking about plans, they also certainly worked out in the third race, which was the Independent on Saturday, then and now maiden plate for fillies and mares, again over the minimum trip of 1,000 metres. A couple of exposed, rather limited older fillies coming up against two newcomers in the form of IC Eleanor and All Revved Up, left it late, just a fraction too late, as it turned out, and victory went the way of IC Eleanor.
Julia now moves in. IC Eleanor. All the while, an Air of Pride is looking to put it together. Ruby Rising looking for a way through. Sweet Julia's turn to hit the front, coming to the 200-metre marker. IC Eleanor on the inside. Ruby Rising continues to look for galloping room the last 100. And All Revved Up has come from absolutely nowhere. All Revved Up and IC Eleanor. IC Eleanor and All Revved Up. Maybe...
Well, we know that the naming of the horse and what has transpired in the week leading up to this race for the Hollywoodbet Syndicate, it was a special win for Hollywood, and IC Eleanor coming through to win their first timer. Graham, you know, I did that interview with Anthony Delpeche, who is the Hollywoodbets racing manager, and whilst he spoke about the experience of Sweet Julia, he was quick to mention that this horse was forward and wouldn't be a surprise winner. And there was a hell of a lot of weight of money on her.
Lots of money, 7 to 1 on offer in the week. Started much shorter than that. Did drift as they approached race time. Wonderful words coming through from Devon Heifer in the interview that you did with him. You know, to think of Eleanor as the mother of Hollywood, the mother of winning form. Of course, Eleanor, I'm almost inclined to say Dame Eleanor, who was the dam of IC Eleanor, mother of Owen, grandmother to Devon and the rest of the family. Very moving moment, very emotional moment to see IC Eleanor come through and win on debut. Just holding off the late attentions of All Revved Up, who's going to be a very popular choice to follow up in the near future. But we mustn't forget that this was a very shallow field in terms of those that had run before. Yes,
Sure.
An Air of Pride and Sweet Julia brought some form into the race, but not the strongest form around. So it was no surprise to see the two newcomers actually finishing in the exacta positions.
If you freeze frame that replay at the 400-meter mark, All Revved Up was in 6th position on the rail with nowhere to go. I did not know how much a horse left, but when Sereno pulled this horse out for a run, that is the horse that you'll take out of this. Taking nothing away from the winner, who did everything to win. But All Revved Up showed a tremendous burst of speed there, Graham. I mean, at the 400, you don't give a horse a chance of finishing in the top 4. And to go that close to winning, I agree with you. Next time out, you won't get a price.
Yeah, look, he could clearly see in front of him that there was no prospect of a gap opening.
Yes.
So he saw Sean Veal on Ruby Rising in front of him, trying to find a way through. And Ruby Rising was also full of running.
Sure.
Could have got closer. And so Serena made the quick decision to come off the rail. So he took the long way around, which in the end was the difference between winning and losing. But had he stayed on the rail, he would have been brought for a run and got nowhere near close. So he made the brave decision to come off the rail, but IC Eleanor had taken the shortest route home and showed signs of inexperience at the top of the straight, as Peter Muscat alluded to, and put into a little bit of a gap, just threw its head up slightly, but that's not unusual for a first-timer. So I think Robbie Hill will be well pleased with the way All Revved Up finished off the race, justified the early anti-pass market support for her as well. And I think with Peter Muscat saying, you know, clearly 1,200 metres, this filly would be more comfortable over 1,200 metres rather than the minimum trip. But to win first day at school and to get the job done in the moment, a special moment for the Heifer family, for the Hollywood syndicate, for everybody connected to the family. And it was just a wonderful moment.
Yeah, and what it takes is that you can do the preparation back home. You need things to work out on the day. But what I really liked about this filly, whilst all revved up was finishing, is that she showed the heart and the will to run, because she was around horses that had experience in Sweet Julia and Air of Pride, but she never let down. So I think both those first timers, as Graham mentioned, although the field was shallow, they were penciling in as horses to follow. Number 1, I See Eleanor, and horse number 6, all revved up. And then, Graham, it was on to the big one, which was race number 4, the start of the Pick 6. And this looked to be a competitive start to leg 1 of that Pick 6.
Neck. Her Royalty goes for the inside run. Flying Rain storms down the middle of the course, looking to run on Tannin Princess extreme outside. Flying Rain Storm runs on, Her Royalty the inside. Long streets between them, all the while Tannin Princess, Sweeter Than Honey's looking for a gap. Tannin Princess inhaling them the last 100, and Gavin Larino will strike. Flying Rain Storm second, Sweeter Than Honey.
Well, as Dee's mentioned, this was the first leg of the carryover Pick 6. It was a maiden plate for fillies and mares over 1,600 metres. There were no standouts when it came to race time. Dee's, I'm not sure if you're aware, they went 4-1 the field. Basically, there was no real money for anything. The winner, Tannin Princess, was allowed to drift out in the market. Gavin gave her a patient ride. The race was up for grabs as the field approached the final 300 metres. None of the form lines that she had been involved with previously had been franked. It was difficult to know where the winner was going to come from. But then over the last 200 metres, Tannin Princess stamped her authority, raced away to beat Flying Rain Storm. I know that Gavin said there was a bit more to come, perhaps another one. I'm not sure about that. But of course, that's why we race, to find out where they go from here. Because I think this was a distinctly limited field. Something had to win, and today it was Tannin Princess.
Yeah, what I got out of that interview from Garrett, and I didn't want to point him in that direction, but he did agree, was that last run was all wrong on the poly track, and she doesn't like that surface at all. So that was her worst run of her career. And if you drew a line to that last start and just judged her on a superior form on the turf, she had to come into the race. But then I saw the equipment changes, Graham. Pacifiers, air muffs, alles, everything is on her. So I'm wondering, are these guys being desperate and they're trying something? But obviously it's not something that you just, click your fingers and expect to happen. And there is a thought process behind these equipment changes with these horses, and they seem to got it spot on. The draw, I think Gavin had no problem dropping her out, because whatever fractions they were going to be going up front, he knew that the form amongst his opposition is all, not too great. There's nothing that's going to skip, or nothing's got a very fast 400 meters. So if he's within striking distance, I think he could have a chance if this horse kicks on. And it worked out beautifully for him. There was full compliments, from both his dad, who was representing Main Chance in that interview, and Garrett for that ride. And I must concur with them, because, if you went for I think you got Gavin Larino to thank there. One could say there were a few disappointments in the race, Graham. I know that the 2-year-old, there was lots of talk about her, but she was going over 1,600 meters. You alluded to it. I read out the pedigree. There wasn't a yardstick when it comes to siblings, but the dam was an out-and-out sprinter. I'm not saying that she didn't see out the 1,600 meter trip, but I'm of the opinion that she's less effective over a mile at this stage of her career.
Well, I think the connections would have learnt a great deal about Her Royalty today, because she was always in the vanguard. She was always up there with the pace, and when called upon to win her race, which she had every chance of doing, and as a progressive 2-year-old, you would have thought she'd put this kind of field to bed if she's got any kind of quality. So I don't think it was a lack of quality that didn't see her home. I'm in your camp. I don't think she saw out the trip. So I think it's back to the drawing board, in my opinion, for the Mike Miller stable. Back to 1,200 metres, see how we go from there. She's not a big filly. There's not a hell of a lot of her, but she had the run of the race. She was drawn in gate 1. She had every chance to win. Couldn't get the job done against a moderate field of older horses. So I think that they may go back to basics and go back to shorter trips. Long Street, I thought, was the pick of the parade. She certainly had every chance. Matthew Thackeray dictated the gallop, but just kept plodding on one pace. Flying Rain Storm will win a race one of these days. So there's not much to take away from this race, because I don't believe it's going to be a form line to follow.
Yeah, I must agree with the form line to follow. I don't believe. There was a train of thought from Wendy Whitehead whether she was going to run Flying Rainstorm or not over a mile, because she was firmly of the opinion that 7 furlongs is the filly's best. But, on instruction from Serena Moodley, he said, you got a good draw. Maybe I can just be a bit conservative in the early part of the race and get away with it against this type of field. I think she was commendable over 1,600 meters, but I suspect next time out you'll see her over a 1,400.
Okay, so let's move on to race 5, which was the second leg of the pick 6 and the first leg of Jackpot 1, the Independent on Saturday Night Sports maiden plate over 1,800 meters. And here was the first time we saw Richard Fourie in action today. 2 of his earlier rides were scratched. Number 3, Hoodwinked, was all the rage from 5 to 2 into around even money. There were no real market challenges for him. Magnar Magic was easy to back, Rainbow of Roses, and the rest of the field all kind of drifted out. He was a bit playful before the race, Hoodwinked, but he settled beautifully in running, was given every chance. But as you'll see from the rerun, his head comes up for air when they come to the final 200.
He's now asked for maximum. Towards the outside, Fire Forces trying to get into it. Coming to the 300-meter marker now. Animal Impact, Hoodwinked. On the outside, Ironmonger's running a race. Ibiza Knight's on the inside. And also running on Basi Rakvat. Ibiza Knight hit the front the last 100 though. Ironmonger's running on Red Sleeves and Cap. On the extreme outside, here comes Basi Rakvat and got them all.
Oh, that's it. That was a nice result for MJ Odendaal. He had horses that were soldiering along in the maiden ranks that ran exceptionally well here, and it went to number 7, Basi Rakvat, coming through with a late run right on the outside of the track and a great ride by Calvin Habib. I must agree with Graham on his leading comments with the number 3 Hoodwink, because that was my slight concern. I did pull out the pedigree, Graham. The dam, she sprinted. We know her very well, called King's Temptress. And then the siblings, they got up to a mile. So when Com Naidu did step her up last time out, she gave a very good account of herself. That was my slight concern. But then when I spoke to Kumar Naidu in that interview that I did in that parade ring, and I tried to push him about the distance, and he was very confident. And I think that may have come from Richard Fourie, or maybe not, that, try over further if you find a race for her. So they went this distance of 1,800 meters. But I must agree with you. The way he rode her, last time out, she was conservatively ridden from a poor draw. This time out, she had a good draw, which was not wasted. So you think that she was there for free. When they came into the straight, it looked like a winning move. But I agree with you 100% that at this stage of her career, 1,800 meters, less effective.
Yes, maybe harsh to judge in one run, but as you say, the dam was very quick, was a sprint specialist. In a hurry to get to the 1,800 meters maybe. The first start was over 1,200, good run. Beaten less than a length. The next start over 1,600 meters, beaten slightly further, but by a horse that may have a bit of a bright future, Buzz Bomb. Immediately up to 1,800 meters in the third start. Nothing wrong with that. You see that in the UK, you see it in the Northern Hemisphere, you see it in France and America and Australia all the time. But Hoodwinked, perhaps with the speed on his downside of his family, he was given every chance. Yes, he played around a little bit, may have taken something out of him prior to the start of the race. But when I was watching the race, hell, he was travelling easily. He was just absolutely in a beautiful rhythm.
Sure.
As you say, Richard Fourie made what he would have thought was a winning move coming into the home straight. But then he just ran out of puff in the closing stages. I think Hoodwinked will be back another day, and I don't think he is not going to win pretty soon. I think he showed us enough even there that he'll win his maiden in his next couple of starts, if not his next start.
Yeah, there were horses around here that we're not saying that they turn their form around. They were knocking on the door, but they've taken a long, long time. Horses like Basi Rakvat and Ironmonger, to name a few. But Hoodwinked did put in a commendable performance, but missed out there. Even missed up on the place accumulator as well. So number 3, Hoodwinked, was a disappointment for those that went for him, but we take nothing away from the winner, number 7, Basi Rakvat. And those first 2 legs of the pick 6 were results. because especially this leg, Graham, where Bossy Rockford was, I'm not going to say one of the outsiders in the race, but if you look past Hoodwinked, then this horse didn't have the number of tickets in the pick six. I don't know what it's paying, but I suspect after 2 legs of that bet in a pool that got over 3 million, punters will be smiling that survived.
Absolutely. So there we go. We've reviewed the first 5 races, the first 5 of 10. You can see the scenes behind us. This studio is situated adjacent to the parade ring. Very peaceful, very calm, but still no way through in terms of an exit from the parade ring. The horses that are due to participate in race 6, the Independent on Saturday Drill All Stakes, have been taken to the back. The connections are still standing around in the parade ring, quite frankly. Dees and I have no idea about what is coming next, but for the meantime, we'll say goodbye from the Encore studio.